self-defense and the water cooler. What do they have in common? We're going to chat about that with Bill Murphy in just a minute. What does it mean, though? Let me explain this real quick. For many, many years, all the way back when I was at Merrill Lynch, we used to talk about the idea when people are starting to talk about the stock market at the water cooler, at holiday parties, birthday parties, anniversaries, you know that the market is too hot and it's going to correct. Well, I've been going to a lot of parties lately, and the common thing is crime. It's one of the biggest issues out there. Don't know why we didn't vote in a manner that was supporting crime in the election, but hey, that's everybody's personal choice. But we're talking about crime so much that it's getting to a point where everyone, or many people, are talking about how do we protect ourselves, going back to the Wild West, right? And there's all kinds of laws out there that say you can't protect yourself. And if our state gets its way, they'll say you can't protect yourself even more. Thankfully, we do have a Second Amendment still. But let's chat about doing this responsibly. And I love chatting with Bill Murphy about that. Many, many years in law enforcement.
Too many.
Most people aren't even old enough to have as many years as you've.
If you're not 44 years old, then I've been a cop longer than you've been alive.
There you go. Okay, I just barely passed.
Barely passed. Yeah.
Maybe about 15, 16 years ago, but that's a whole.
I look at these snotty kids at work sometimes, and you're like, dude, you're 25 years old. I've been doing this 43 years. Why don't you go back to your mama?
So from a law enforcement perspective, does it bother you that so many people are now looking and saying, how do we protect ourselves as opposed to looking to law enforcement?
We do CCW classes on a regular basis. I did one this weekend.
Okay, we're simple people.
Concealed weapons courses, so you can get a permit to carry a gun from the county sheriffs or the chiefs of police. And what happened is they always come in and they're 65 years old and they're of a questionable political party. And what happened is now they want to learn how to defend themselves. And I tell them, go practice your mantras, get a safe room and a can of pepper spray, and don't go out of the house anymore. That's how you can practice. But this should start when you're younger, and you should start having an active interest in your safety and awareness, not putting yourself in dangerous situations. But a lot of people go out, I notice your $35,000 Rolex you're wearing and all this kind of stuff. People get killed for the watches and the jewelry. An LAPD young academy graduate and starting in patrol, he was killed because he was wearing 2 silver necklaces. And what happened is he got change of $100 bill, and the wrong people saw it and they followed him and then they killed him.
Wow. Because they're getting change for $100 bill and they wanted, so that's what life is worth.
No, it's less worth than that. But what happens is this guy was armed, trained, and carrying a gun, and they still killed him. And a lot of these CCW classes are 8 hours. There's nothing you can learn in 8 hours that's going to make you successful. The maximum training the state allows at one time is 16 hours. And we're one of the very few groups that do 16 hours of training because we believe in your right to defend yourself, but you got to have the skills. If you don't have the skills and the knowledge, then what happens is you're just fooling yourself, no one else.
So let's go back to your story there. So the man had a gun and still got killed.
Yeah, he was a LAPD cop, had just graduated the academy, and he was in his old neighborhood looking around. My understanding was he was looking at houses and stuff like that. He's working full time, and he stopped to get gas or something else. And what ended up happening is they saw he had 2 silver chains on, and that he gave $100 bill to get change. And all of a sudden, these guys followed him, confronted him, and they killed him.
Is there anything that he could have done?
Well, he tried to fight it out. He had a gun, and he tried to. But what happens, he's facing 3 guys, and he's alone. And what happens, you got to remember, he's had 160 hours of legal update. He's had 160 hours of PT training, physical training. Then he's had arrest and control. Then he's had 80 hours of firearms. And then he's had baton training. And you're going to do the same thing with 8 hours of CCW training?
Yeah. So the question we want to get to, because I'm a big believer that if you want to carry a weapon, make sure you get educated. or at least and practice.
I always say that there's nothing you can do 3 times a year and do it well. You can't drive a car 3 times a year and do it well. You can't type 3 times a year and do well. You can't have sex 3 times a year and do it well. You may be pleased by your ability, but nobody else will be. These are repetitive task skills. The more you do them, the better you get. The better you get, the more other people want to play with you.
So how often do you recommend? So if I wanted to go get a CCW and I wanted to carry a weapon or have a weapon even, how often should I be practicing?
You should be doing something to improve yourself every day. If you're alone in the shower, bend over and touch your toes. Sometimes that's just a big help. Go for a walk. Take your darn dog off the couch and take him for a walk with you. But what happens as far as weapons training and all that, you should at least be doing this monthly until the point that you get good at it. And like in law enforcement, we only qualify 3 and 4 times a year and do it well. What do you think the hit ratio is for law enforcement self-defense?
I think I'm going to probably come pretty close.
What?
17%.
Yes, exactly.
I only know that because you told me that.
So for every 5 bullets fired by the cops, less than 1 hits the bad guy. Is it because cops are naturally bad shots? A little bit. But what also happens is someone's trying to murder you that has all the advantages. As the cop or the CCW holder, we never get to make a decision. The decisions are always made by the bad guy. And he works up for this by going out and getting himself intoxicated. So he's not feeling any pain. He has no fears. He brings his buddies with him. Now he has the advantage. He picks the time, place, and location of the attack every single time. If you could go down the street and say, yep, I'll shoot that guy today. Okay, that would make no sense. But what happens is that's how they pick you. You're going down the street, they see you, they decide to go after you, they follow you till they have an advantage, and now they attack.
You know, when we come back, I want to talk to you about the issue, because I mean, when you told me about 17% hit rate, I was just flabbergasted, because it doesn't make sense to me as a lay person. But I want to talk to you about that and adrenaline. What does that have to do with it? We'll talk about that when we come back. Continue our conversation. Bill Murphy is here with us, chatting about self-defense. And yes, they teach. It's kind of interesting. And when you've got somebody that's really giving you the straight scoop, because Bill and his family sell CCW training. Correct. And you come out and tell us, it's probably not the best answer for somebody who's not going to take it seriously.
Correct. It's one of my biggest fears is that somebody gets a CCW. They throw it in their purse. They're out to lunch. Some guy runs by, robs them, grabs their purse, runs off. He's going through the purse. A block later, he finds a gun. Then he goes another block and robs somebody. And now he uses a gun in this robbery because he got it from the person that should have had the gun on them, not in their purse. And when the police roll in because the robbery's going on, he starts shooting at the cops. And so you have to take carrying a gun serious.
Yeah, that was one of the big takeaways. I mean, I've always had that takeaway, but I mean, after going through your training, I mean, it was everything is real serious. It's not a fun time. It's not a weekend warrior event.
Some people say I'm mean only in that class because I take it so seriously and I don't have time to BS and I'm not there to kiss your butt. We'll teach you how to shoot every other kind of gun. We'll make it a fun time. We do ladies classes. We do all these things, but the CCW, somebody might get their permit, leave there, and then get into a shooting the next day. And so it's one of those things is you got to know what you're doing.
So let me ask you, I kind of threw this out there in the last segment, Bill, the concept of adrenaline. And, you made the comment in the last segment that the bad guys, they don't have to worry about this adrenaline rush because they're on drugs and alcohol.
Absolutely.
Now, as a civilian or even law enforcement, when you go out there and the events require you to pull your weapon, I'm assuming that you get a massive adrenaline rush, even as law enforcement.
The situations I've been in is that they're very, very fast. I had a guy tried to beat me to the draw in his front doorway of his house. And so I saw his hand go on his gun. I started pulling my gun. I beat him to the draw. I put 2 in his heart. And then what happens is he was down going backwards, and I went to put a third one in him. And what happened is he's incapacitated. And I didn't care whether he died or he lived. I just couldn't have him shooting into the three of us that were standing on his porch. And so what ends up happening, it's over quick. I didn't even sense adrenaline until after the incident was over.
Really? Okay.
And so what happened is then you start to get the little shaking in the leg and all that. That's the energy going through you. That's the fight or flight. But a lot of times it's over before the fight or flight comes in. And so it can happen very quickly. People say that generally they're going to be over in less than 3 seconds. There's been times when I've had plenty of warning where I could go ahead and get behind cover. I could upgrade from a pistol to a shotgun with slugs in it. And then what happened, we have about an 8-9 minute standoff. And then what happens, it requires one accurate shot to incapacitate. And so all situations are different. But the advantage goes to the bad guy, and then the cops have to try, or the CCW person has to try to reclaim the advantage and then deliver force from a weapon that is not really a great weapon for self-defense. We carry pistols because they're convenient. And what happens, I always, if I can, I start with pepper spray, because now at least you can't see me, and I'm no skinny little boy. And so what happens, I'd prefer if you can't see me because I'm not that hard to hit. And so going from there is that then if I have the opportunity to use pepper spray, and hopefully that de-escalates it, but if it continues up, then I do have my firearm as it's either the first resort or the last resort. Is that the attack was so sudden and violent that I had no other option but to go to deadly force, or it's my last resort. I've tried my mere presence. I've tried verbalization. I've used my flashlight in your eyes. Now I've gone for the pepper spray. And basically I'm just going around a wagon wheel, and every level of force I have adds a spoke. And the last one at 11:59 on that circle would be deadly force. So I can either simply roll from straight up and down to the left, and I'm at 11:59 and I use deadly force, or I can go all the way around this wagon wheel up until the time the force was successful and I can stop.
That's pretty amazing when you think about that whole process. But now let me ask you this, that if national number for law enforcement is a 17% accuracy or hit rate, what's the numbers for the bad guys?
Well, the bad guys actually have advantages because they're not carrying a gun around in a holster and waiting for someone to provide stimulus to them. They just yo right in your face. And so when they have a gun in their hand, they're going to shoot you. And so they don't carry them because they don't necessarily want to get caught. But you see a lot now on the East Coast where gangsters are walking around with full-size semi-automatic handguns with 30-round magazines sticking out. And at the drop of a hat, they'll engage. There's so many videos of this today, and it's going on everywhere. I don't know if it's the family unit has fallen apart. We know the justice system has fallen apart. And so what's the direct cause? There's psychiatrists debating this for large amounts of money every day. But what ends up happening is it's going on, and we know it is.
So being that I know you're so much more in tune with this than I am, is there more events going on now, or is there more media sharing it? Because everybody has a camera now.
Well, yeah, I know. I've been on camera.
Is that good or bad?
It was actually good for me, but it sticks with you forever. It's always there, right in there. But what happened is, like with the Asian hate crimes, I don't know that it was a big factor until the media got a hold of it and blew it up. And then what happens is it's like every Asian now is being attacked all the time, 100%, and it's really going on. So I don't know if life imitates art or art imitates life, but it's one of those things. It happens.
So what do you recommend? I mean, so being, you're in law enforcement, you teach people outside of law enforcement. What do we do to try and protect ourselves?
Well, the biggest thing I can tell you is awareness. And I was a range master at Gun Sight Training Center out Prescott, Arizona. Jeff Cooper invented self-defense and self-defense training. And I worked for them for about 22, 23 years. And what happens is it's always about the awareness, is try to see things developing and avoid them. Don't be out after 11 o'clock at night. Be in bed. This is the recommendation of law enforcement. Be in bed somewhere with someone by 11 o'clock at night.
Figure it out early.
Yeah. Work on it from 9 to 11. But what ends up happening is that if you're out there and you're in the environment, it's going to go bad. And so, it's one of those things, is avoid the environment.
Yeah, don't go down the bad streets when you know those are bad streets, and
but it could be anywhere. Crime is transitory. Like out on the beach, I was hunting the beach cop for a long time, and what happened is a guy would be walking down the street on the beach on the sand, and two guys would come up to confront him with his girlfriend, and then they would start stabbing him with a screwdriver. Luckily, the stabber was completely out of control and stabbed his own partner in the eye. Yeah, he got him right in the eye. It was pretty good.
That's amazing. Continuing our conversation, we're chatting with Bill Murphy. We're talking about personal protection. And in the last segment, we got to the idea of self-awareness, or I think I'll ask you my opinion, though. One of the biggest detriments, in addition to being home, going home and being on the road too late, is cell phones.
Cell phones kill a lot of people, from bad driving habits, looking at the phones. I can't tell you how many people I pass going to and from work that are just fixed and dilated on their cell phone, and they don't even look at traffic, let alone walking down the street. I love the outtake videos where the guy's got the iPhone up and he walks into a telephone pole.
Right.
God, I enjoy those because it's payback. And there's just so much work caused by the inattention and lack of awareness, and so much personal injury, is that if people stop doing that, and cell phones have gotten so big now. I love walking down the street behind a lady and I can watch my favorite TV shows. They're playing on her phone because you can see them about a mile away.
Yeah, that's just from the standpoint of those people that are, you're walking anywhere now. I mean, my wife was talking to me last night, and she said she was over by Disneyland and talking about, in one of the nice areas there, and people spending significant amounts of money to go to the park for a day, and you're not watching what's going on. You're sitting there on your phone.
Well, it's one of those things. I may look like a technical expert, an engineer, something like that. That's my phone. It's a flip phone, and I can't do anything weird on it.
Wow.
Doesn't get any porn.
You don't see those around very much.
Oh, come on. I got it when I was 5.
You got that was the first phone that came out.
First one, yeah.
So you're not the one out there taking pictures of your grandkids, and at least with that, you've got the old. Do you still have the film, the 35 millimeter roll?
I do have an iPhone, but that stays locked away. That's in my bag. That's somewhere else. And I check it like most people check their computer. A couple times a day, I'll run through the emails, because all it is people wanting money from me.
Okay. I'll send you one then. But something, it's interesting, because I know that before my dad passed, that was his idea also. He said, does it ring and can I say hello?
Yeah.
Right. Just get it. Now his wasn't the same purpose, but these phones, people are so fixated. I watched just in our office complex, and you watch people coming in from the parking lot, and they're staring at their phone the whole time and have no idea about the car, especially the electric cars.
Yes.
Because you can't hear them. They're backing up right into you.
I hate electric cars. I'm a bicycle rider. And what happens, you feel uncomfortable all of a sudden, and you look back, and here's a Tesla on your butt, just getting ready to turn right, and you're pedaling as fast as you can, but it's not fast enough for the Tesla. So I'm very happy that Mr. Tesla put option of having noise on the car, because all I could hear was the gravel under the tires.
Yeah, the tire noise. Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me a little bit about your classes and your company. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, we're Firearms Training Associates, and for the CCW purposes, we're in Yorba Linda, California. And what happened is we have our range training facility at Mike Rahagi Shooting Enterprises in Corona, California. We've got classrooms, air conditioning, all this stuff along those lines. And that we do classes on every level. So women's self-defense, we do edge weapons, we do first aid, we do medical for gunshots, we do rifle, shotgun. The best weapons system in the world is a shotgun. And so we have a ladies home defense class or a ladies self-defense. And I always show them, we put out 10 guns and let them try all the different guns. And the last one I put out is a 20 gauge shotgun. It's an over and under. And so I put two.
What does an over and under mean?
That means the barrels are stacked on each other. And so I put out 2 paper targets and I blow the crotch off on both targets to show the ladies, okay, nothing's better than this. You fire one shot and the guy's missing a crotch. So for home defense, that's what we can use. And that's kind of stuff we recommend. But we teach women how to get out of grabs when they're personally attacked. We show them edge weapons awareness. And so that we do all courses. We do vehicle operations. We do building searching and clearing. We've worked for police departments at the highest level, training their SWAT teams. And we've worked for the United States government at the highest level, for the agency, for special forces, we even trained for SEAL Team 6. We had a 40-hour class. And so we still do all of those classes. But what happens is we want to train the armed citizen how to carry a gun and how to use the gun effectively. Because if you have good skill, it's less likely that we're going to shoot people. And so as a law enforcement officer, I probably could have shot 25 or 30 people in my career. And what happens is we shoot people because we have to, not because we can. And so I only was involved in 4 shootings on duty. And what ends up happening is that's where they left me no options. Their attack was sudden and violent, or they were out to kill someone else. They drew a weapon on us. And so you had to use deadly force. But the idea is that in training, there's 3 C's. Competence equals confidence, which equals control. If I'm competent with my equipment, I have confidence in my ability, I have control over myself and others. And that's the way we kind of live our life, is that, the armed citizen is a polite citizen, because you don't go down the road yelling at people and doing all that. Now, if I'm not carrying a gun, I'm a crazy man. I yell at everybody, do all that kind of stuff, introduce them to my different fingers at different times and all that kind of stuff. But when I carry a firearm, I represent the armed society, and I'm very polite, very helpful, and very nice to people. So that's what we want.
So that's how we know if you're carrying then.
Yes. Yeah.
You never know. You never know.
I don't have a gun that day.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine that says that all the time. And when I went through your class, the gentleman that was teaching it actually said the same thing. How many weapons do you think I'm carrying? I'm not going to tell you. Right? Because, you don't know whether somebody is or isn't. That's the way it should be.
And that's what concealed carry is maybe it's in your just right front pants pocket, and maybe it's a small 38 revolver, and nobody's going to ever see it unless they force the issue.
Smart. Website?
Yeah, we're FTATV.com.
FTATV.com.
Firearms Training Associates television.
Okay.
And so then what happens is,
but I have a face for radio, so
if you're on Orange County Sheriff CCW, we're under your Belinda. They did a nutty thing of doing it by city names, instead of business names, alphabetical order.
So you're at the very end. Just go down to the very bottom.
Just go to the bottom and come up. But we do it for LA, Orange County, Riverside County, San Diego County. Most every city will accept ours because we've been around the longest, and we probably do the best class. We've been repeatedly told that many times. And
I can tell you, I went through it, and it's not a picnic. You're not going there for a fun Sunday. It's very, very educational, very, very informative. Practice is serious. I highly recommend it. FTATV.com. FTATV.com. If you want any questions, have any questions about it, want to reach Bill or his team, give me a call at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990.